This is the Energy Makers Show, featuring the innovators, financiers, and policymakers focused on the global energy demand. Brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And here's your host, Paul Dickerson.
Hi, I'm Paul Dickerson, and welcome to another episode of the Energy Makers Show. First up, Marie Guillot, founder and CEO of ABACO International, this global executive search firm helping clients find executive leadership all across the world. Next up, Mark Schroeder, Senior Vice President and Deputy General Counsel at CenterPoint Energy, a company with an incredibly broad mission. All that right after this.
Where will the energy come from to move us forward? From natural sources in abundant supply, or perhaps a man-made source? At NRG, we believe innovation will solve our energy needs. That's why NRG is moving away from fossil fuels towards wind, solar, and other sustainable technologies to power the smart grid, the electric car, and our clean energy future. We're using all of our energy to develop more of it.
This is the Energy Makers Show, brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And now, back to the Energy Makers Show with your host, Paul Dickerson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Energy Makers Show. Our guest now, Marie Guillot, CEO and founder of ABACO International. Marie, great to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So ABACO International, tell us about it.
Well, ABACO International is a retained executive search firm, and we focus in the energy industry. We're located here in Houston, but we do business all over the world on every continent.
Well, and it's a busy time in the energy space.
It's very busy. Things have really picked up. It's a very hot market, and things are really great in the recruiting industry.
Are there certain areas, whether it be on the gas side, fuel, power, where are you seeing some of the movement?
A lot of our focus is in the true oil and gas industry. So we are focused not so much in the power industry, but more in oil and gas. There's a lot going on here in the U.S. with the shale plays, of course. Sure. And there's also a lot of interest in companies coming here and opening up businesses, as well as our clients that have a major headquarters here going around towards the Eastern Hemisphere and doing business over there. I mean, we're sort of country agnostic when it comes to the oil and gas industry. We go where the oil is.
And is your focus on the executive team? Is it on the staff level? Where do you excel?
We focus on the upper level management. So in most companies, that's from a director level up to the C-suite. Usually experienced professionals, 10 plus years experience.
Well, and tell me about some of the trends that you're seeing there.
It really depends on the particular position. Usually by the time a client goes out to search, they've been trying it a little bit on their own. They've tried it internally, and so they take it out to a recruiter. So a lot of times those are those positions that are very competitive and where the market's a little bit tight.
Tell me about the age gap.
The age gap, well, it's something that we've been talking about for over 10 years now, but it's really here, and there's a significant amount of the population and the knowledge capital of these companies that are retiring.
How do they work with that?
They do have plans. Some of them have a better bench strategy than others. Some of them know it's coming, but don't always plan so well. So there's a lot of expectation that I think that there are more people than they think to follow that generation when really there is quite a significant gap.
So how do you handle the demand and still differentiate yourself?
We are a boutique firm. And what that means is, yes, we're smaller, and bigger isn't always better. Our clients like working with us because the level of client service that we offer. We go really deep with the clients that we work with. We're more interested in a very long-term relationship or a partnership with a client. And so even though we work across the industry, we don't work with everyone in the industry. So we really look at specific industry sectors, and we select one partner within an industry sector so that we can work with them. One of the big advantages to working with a boutique firm instead of one that goes completely vertically in the industry is that we're not going to have the non-competes that the other firms have. So that's a big advantage if we're working for one particular client and we don't have any restrictions to recruit from any of their competitors or any of the companies that they would like to pull talent from, then we're wide open with a talent pool that we can supply for them.
When you are filling jobs in Texas for Texas energy firms, are you finding talent outside Texas?
Oh, yes, all the time. For our firm, probably 60% of our business in the last 2 years has been outside the U.S. So that was for firms that had positions or leadership needs outside the U.S. where they had us do the search. And so we found local talent in just about any country you can name around the world.
So in Asia, how do you find the talent?
Well, in just like we do in any part of the world, and we don't necessarily have to have been in a particular country or city before to be able to find great talent. We have I think a pretty up-to-date search process using technology in some really interesting ways, and maybe that's because I haven't been in the search business for 25 years. I've been in it for 6 years, and it's something that we drop into a particular location, and we're able to network, get into the companies we need to get into, talk to the professionals that are in that industry, and select the very best talent. We truly are recruiters. We're not posting a job and peddling resumes. We are really going into a company and looking for people that are heads down and happy where they are. They weren't looking, and we are there to pitch to them why our client has a better opportunity than where they are currently. And we do that all over the world.
When you look at Brazil, what are some of the positions that you're helping fill?
There's a lot of manufacturing that's going on right now down there. So we have worked with a lot of our clients that have manufacturing operations looking for general managers or vice presidents that run a region down there.
Well, and I've heard that you've got this entrepreneurial streak, both by education and by training. So I was interested in meeting the founder of ABACO for that reason. Can you share with our viewers some of your history?
Sure. I'm a graduate of the University of Houston here, and a graduate of the entrepreneurship program at University of Houston, which is now the #1 program in the country. So I'm very proud of that. I was one of the pioneers, so I graduated in the second class that ever graduated from there.
And did you go straight into executive search?
No, I didn't. I actually went to work for several other companies that were starting up businesses and getting businesses going. So I worked with other entrepreneurs and helped them grow their businesses. And at a point in my career, I decided it was time to start my own.
How long should we expect this banner time in energy to last?
Gosh, we all wish it would never end, but as we know, I think it's good for several years to come.
And are there things that either employers or employees should expect when the music either begins to slow or stop?
Well, what I would say to companies is that you always have to look at your bench strength. I think that some of the challenges that companies are finding now is because they sort of knew this was coming, but they didn't really plan for the bench strength. And when everything heats up and everybody's got projects, it's highly competitive. Those employees are a lot more expensive, and you don't just develop them overnight.
Well, Marie, it's a treat to meet you. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you so much.
And that wraps our discussion with Marie Guillot. We'll be back with more right after this.
The future is here.
You can't see it. It's electric.
At NRG, we're providing clean energy and now charging stations to make the electric car a reality. Kinda makes you want a boogie woogie, doesn't it? NRG, moving clean energy forward.
It's electric.
This is the Energy Makers Show, brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And now, back to the Energy Makers Show with your host, Paul Dickerson.
Welcome back to the Energy Makers Show. Our guest now, Mark Schroeder, Senior Vice President and Deputy General Counsel at CenterPoint Energy. Mark, great to have you on the program.
Paul, glad to be here.
So who is CenterPoint Energy?
CenterPoint Energy is a Houston-based public utility holding company. We own gas distribution companies in 6 states. We own the transmission and distribution electric utility here in Houston. We own 2 interstate pipelines, and we own what's called a midstream or gas gathering and processing company.
That's a broad mission.
We touch a lot of parts of the energy sector. About the only areas that we really don't touch are oil and gas production and power generation. And then on the retail side of electricity, we don't sell you your electricity anymore. We deliver it for retailers in the competitive market.
Well, and I hear congratulations are in order. The company has an anniversary coming up.
Yes, we were the product of a separation of 2 companies. We were formed 10 years ago. October 1st is our 10th anniversary, and executives will go to the New York Stock Exchange and get to ring the bell again. We are the legacy of companies, though, that go back well over 100 years to the original Houston Lighting and Power Company.
Tell me about some of your operations in the various states?
Well, as I said, we distribute gas in 6 states. Those businesses are fairly stable. Gas distribution business is not a rapidly growing business anymore, but we've been very fortunate within our geographic footprint to be sitting on top of a number of the shale plays, which I know some of your other speakers on other occasions or guests on other occasions have talked about. We recently, going back to April 2009, responded to a request for proposal from Shell and Encana, and were the winners and built for them a very large gas gathering system. Probably about $400 million project completed in, I think, less than 18 months. They were pleased with that. We had the opportunity to bid on a second project. We won that. So we're now moving 1 billion cubic feet of gas a day that was not even on the market in April 2009, and we have the capacity to move 2 billion cubic feet a day. And that's been a real step change for that business. 6 years ago, approximately in 2004, their operating income was less than $40 million, and today, 2011, actually, their operating income was $150 million, approximately.
Incredible. Tell me specifically this northern Louisiana plant. What's happening there?
That's a gas treating plant. Each reservoir of gas has different characteristics, but in many of them you'll find, for example, concentrations of carbon dioxide or CO2. That's removed at a treating plant. You also take out other impurities. You might take out water, you might take out dirt and other things, gum that may be found in the product. This is a very dry gas, which actually has implications for how much drilling is occurring in that area at this moment with the low gas prices. But it's a gas treating plant, and it's quite a large scale.
Well, how do the low gas prices affect you?
Again, across all of our portfolio of businesses, they have very different effects. For our gas distribution businesses, it's very good for our consumers who are paying those bills to benefit from low gas prices. In other respects, it creates demand in the industrial sector. We expect to see an uptick in power generation, fertilizer manufacturing, petrochemicals. That bodes well for our pipeline business. Right now, in that particular play, the drilling rigs are less active than they were 3 years ago because they're pursuing what are known as the wetter shale plays where there's more natural gas liquids being produced.
Well, and it seems there is a company-wide focus on the customer. Tell me about this True Cost program.
That's something that we just rolled out in the past 4 to 5 weeks. Your listeners can go to www.mytruecost.com and look at it. It is an entry into the competitive electricity market in Texas, but not as a retailer. We're not participating as a retailer of electricity, but we're facilitating for the customer, sort of cutting through some of the confusion of comparing different plans where they may have different fixed charges or how does that plan fit with my electricity consumption. And on that website, you can elect to take a standard service offering and compare your electricity various programs and how you would fare. Or in the alternative, you can actually allow them, you can choose to give them access to your actual meter readings, and they can even give you a more specific answer that for you, this particular offering is preferable to the other one based on the mix of fixed and variable costs in those plans.
Very, very smart. It's amazing how some of these smart metering systems really are giving consumers real-time feedback about what prices mean to them.
They are, and I think as more applications are rolled out, customers will get to do more around those smart meters. We're very proud of what we accomplished there. We installed 2 million meters in a relatively short period of time. We were the recipient of a very large DOE grant, Department of Energy grant, to accelerate that process. It will facilitate customers changing suppliers with great deal more ease. So that's been good. And then as part of that grant, we also got some money to fund what we call the intelligent grid, which is a whole nother application. That allows us to develop a technology that will tell us where an outage is in particular, as opposed to having to go look for where that down tree might be. It also is what we call a self-healing grid, so that when the grid suffers an outage, it can actually fix itself to reroute electricity around that outage so that fewer customers are impacted by the outage. So it's very exciting. And on the smart meter side, we're one of the handful of utilities in the country that have actually completed their rollout of the smart meters. So we think we're at the forefront of the industry on that one.
Well, and you mentioned the Department of Energy. You and I have both served time within those halls. Tell us about some of your service.
Well, I was there in the first Bush administration. The Department of Energy has a mission that as you know, has very little to do sometimes with energy. Most people don't know that's where we get our nuclear weapons from. And so I spent a lot of time focused on issues around environmental degradation that had occurred within that essentially a very large manufacturing complex, but also got to work on the national energy legislation that we enacted in 1992, which was an exciting process.
Absolutely. Well, and tell us about your job now.
Now I'm responsible for the regulatory outcomes for all of these utilities. So that means 6 state commissions, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, I should say 7 state commissions because Texas has 2 commissions, one for gas and one for electricity. Also responsible for the day-to-day business transactions that they do. I don't do the mergers and acquisitions, but I do a lot of the transactions. And in fact, the Haynesville transactions that we spoke about, I spent a great deal of my time on those, and we're really pleased with those arrangements that we have with Shell and Encana. And they've been pleased as well, so they're actually taking us into other parts of the country where we hadn't been before. And then the other thing that has really changed it's been 10 years now since the demise of Enron and the California energy market debacle, but enforcement and compliance from state commissions, but particularly the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, has really increased. And so in June, we just completed a 20-month audit of by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission with no significant findings, so we're very pleased.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me, Paul. I've enjoyed it.
And that wraps this episode of the Energy Makers Show, heard on the radio nationwide and seen right here at TheEnergyMakers.com. I'm Paul Dickerson, and we'll see you next week.